My husband and I, both 35, have been married for 6 years and we have 2 children together and one on the way. He said that he wanted me to be a housewife and stop working. I was very disturbed by that, but he explained that it was better for our family and children since he can afford a very good living. After a few weeks thinking, I told him that I would agree, but only if I get half of his company. He was surprised by this, but I explained further that the more I stay at home the less chance I would have to find a well-paying job should we ever divorce, because I would have less merits, while he would stay making more money each year. So I want half of the company. If we never divorce, which is the goal of all marriages, then it wouldn't matter, but should it end, it would be the price of me staying home and raising our children so he could be less worried and stressed out. His words, that he would be less anxious and stressed out if he knew they were with me rather than with strangers in daycare or nannies. When I told my friends, they called me the a-hole. My best friend was very angry and called me disgusting. So I am taken aback a little. I think I'm proposing a fair deal. I already mentioned the stuff about marriage. I need an outside opinion. Am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to stop bothering me while I'm reading the newspaper? For Christmas this year, my dad gave me a yearly subscription to my local newspaper. This is an award-winning publication, and it often features really interesting stories that I hadn't read because they were behind a paywall. I was very pleased to have received the gift. The thing is, I work full-time and need to start my day early, so I don't really have the time to read the paper deeply during the work week. It's on Saturdays and Sundays that I can dedicate as much time as I want to it. Well, earlier this morning, my wife and I were sitting in our living room, and she was in the mood to talk over our morning coffee. Normally, this is fine, though she does tend to ramble on and on about stuff I don't always care about, but today it was getting pretty annoying. Finally, during one of her interruptions, I turned to her and said, "Can't you see that I'm trying to read the paper?" She became offended and sort of got a surprised look on her face, but that quickly turned to anger. She tried to guilt-trip me and tell me that we never catch up anymore, but I reminded her that I am home every night after work, even though some days I work late or get caught in traffic. At one time, I worked a job that required extensive travel, where I would be gone for weeks at a time, so I don't think she has any room to complain about my current work situation. Nonetheless, she wanted to make this difficult by refusing to let me read. At this point, my wife is still upset with me, and I don't know what to do. I just need her to understand that what she's doing is making my Christmas gift essentially worthless, but she doesn't seem to have any respect for my father's money at all. I wish she would apologize, but she clearly believes that I'm the one in the wrong. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for not taking a sick day from work to help my wife with a sick kid? As the title states, I work full-time and she stays home with our children. One of the kids was up most of the night puking. I was up with them for the first half of the night, started 9 to 11 at night, and she was up with them the second half, 12 to 3 at dawn, of the night. She is a stay-at-home mom, supporting the kids full-time. I work full-time and think my sick days are to be used for when A, I'm sick and cannot work, or B, she is sick and can't take care of the kids. Since there's 3 ankle biters, she cannot always get to all of the household responsibilities during the day, and I happily make up for that once returning home in the afternoons. On a day like today, when one is sick, I would expect her job to remain the same while I work, and I can make up for any lack when I get home. I don't think of a sick kid as something that prohibits her from playing her role, but something that makes it harder. Am I inconsiderate for holding on to this take, or should I have taken the day off?
I just got over having the virus. Today is the first day I've tested negative in a week. Since I've been stuck in the guest room for a week, I wanted to go out into the world. I asked my spouse if they'd go out to dinner with me and they whined, literally whined, but I don't want to go out. I never ask them to do anything, and something as simple as going out to dinner gets a whiny, childish response? I would understand if I had wanted to go to a social event, and they said no, but it's just dinner. I'd be less upset if they said, "I'm glad that you're better, but can you go with one of your friends? I'm just not feeling up to going out tonight," but instead of that, I got what I got. The whole reason I even asked them is because all of my friends are working tonight, so I have no options other than them, and now I don't even have that. I also thought that maybe they'd want to spend some time with me, given that we haven't been able to hug or kiss or sleep in the same bed for a week due to my illness and isolation. Since that conversation, I have pretty much ignored them, which isn't super unusual for us. We normally do separate things in separate rooms, but I am actually ignoring them. I went to the living room and have just been doing my own thing. They texted me "I love you" about 30 minutes after the conversation, which I did not answer. The only actual interaction we've had is when they came in just now, hugged me for quite a long time, 20 seconds or so, then kissed me and said "I love you." I didn't say a word through the whole thing. I didn't even say "I love you" back. Once they let me go, I just said "Are you done now?" And they walked away without another word. I'm even considering sleeping in the guest bedroom again tonight, even though I'm past the illness, because I don't know if I want to sleep in the same bed as someone who wouldn't get over themselves long enough to have a 1-hour dinner out with me after I've been trapped in a bedroom for a week. Am I the a-hole? My German Shepherd dog Roxy recently passed away at 11 years old. Even though I knew that she was getting old and eventually she would die, her death hit me extremely hard. I cried for days and depression took over my life. I still worked, went to the gym, etc., but I sometimes would forget to eat or shower in the morning and my husband would make sure to remind me. I became visibly skinnier, but I still managed to show myself as happy and full of life when I went out with my friends or just went out in general. When I returned home, I was greeted by the same puppy that my husband had brought 8 days ago. My husband came to me with a huge smile on his face and asked how was my trip and everything. All I could focus on was the puppy and I asked him what was the puppy doing here. He smiled even more and said that he saw how much I loved the puppy, so he bought her for $5,600 at a discount from his friend as a present to me. I immediately asked him, why would you do this? You know I'm not over Roxy, but you wanted to bring another puppy? Like Roxy can just be replaced like that. And I went to the bedroom and slammed the door and burst into tears. The puppy had followed me, but I had closed the door before she could come in and she was scratching the door. My husband told me that he was sorry, but he thought this is what I wanted. I yelled at him that he should have asked me first and to just leave me alone. I know that his intentions were good and he wanted me to be happy, but I loved Roxy like she was my daughter. The next day I told my husband that I was sorry for my breakdown and that I was just still going through the grieving process. He forgave me, but he is still visibly upset at me. I wanted him to return the puppy, but I feel so guilty for yelling at him and that he spent so much money that I decided to keep the puppy. So I kept the puppy. I have apologized to my husband again for yelling at him and reacting the way I did when he meant well. He said that he understood that I was grieving and that dogs can't be replaced like cars, that he should have consulted with me first before bringing in a live puppy that requires a colossal amount of care.
My former boss contacted me a few days ago with an unusual request. She wanted to know if I was interested in sleeping with her while her husband watched us. I said I was the wrong guy for the job, but she disagreed and said I was the perfect guy based on a random one-night stand we had years ago, before she remarried. She said her new husband wanted to watch her F another guy and she was into it. I agreed to discuss the possibility in person, especially when she offered to pay for dinner. I forgot how attractive she was until I saw her face to face. She introduced me to her new husband, who wanted me to understand that all he wanted was to be an observer in the bedroom. Fast forward to the effing. A couple of days had now passed since I said yes. I was in the missionary position when I heard snoring and farting coming from the so-called observer. The husband passed out at some point, but obviously not quietly, which affected my concentration on the intimacy because the snoring was distracting and the farting was disgusting. My ex-boss apologized on her husband's behalf before grabbing the box of tissues next to the bed and aggressively hurling it at her unconscious husband. Aim was off. Tissue box missed the target, prompting my ex-boss to hysterically scream her husband's name over and over into my ears while I was still laying pipe and trying to pretend that absolutely nothing weird was happening. The husband said he had a long day at work. My ex-boss scoffed and said he had no clue what a long day at work looked like because what he did in one day was nothing compared to what she had to do every day as an independent businesswoman. The husband said he had zero energy for another boss-bee speech. My ex-boss looked at me and said her husband had zero energy on a permanent basis. I asked both of them if they wanted me to stop effing and give them privacy because I was awkwardly thrusting in silence while listening to them. My ex-boss said I should ask her husband since the whole thing was his idea. The husband unexpectedly slapped my butt on his way towards the bedroom door and said I should nut and call it a night. I didn't nut, but I did call it a night when I realized that my desire to get away from my ex-boss and her husband outweighed my desire to get off.